In the depths of the Great Depression, she was a symbol of hope.
I am happy to name this ship the Queen Mary.
September 26, 1934, launch day for the pride of the British commercial fleet.
Hearts will glow with admiration.
The Queen Mary set a new standard for elegance and was a favorite among the A-list. Bob Hope, Fred Astaire, Clark Gable.
I booked my trip for the USA, so when I go over the sea, the Queen Mary takes me.
She was the last word in comfort and style, capable of crossing the Atlantic in record time. And at the dawn of World War II, the Mary's speed would, in a way, become a weapon.
This is the nerve center of the Queen Mary.
Historian Everett Horde is the Mary's honorary Commodore.
The Queen Mary is a very fast ship. Her top speed is about 32.5 knots.
And what is that compared to other vessels of the time?
A surfaced U-boat in those days, perhaps around 13, 14 knots, submerged 8 knots. The Queen Mary was even faster than the torpedoes themselves, which traveled along about 25 knots.
Queen Mary was faster than the torpedoes?
Just a shade.
The gallant vessel continues to play an important role in the war.
And so, the world's largest ocean liner became the world's largest troop ship.
Bigger than the Titanic and faster than any German submarine, the Queen Mary was just the thing the Allies needed to take American soldiers to Europe. In fact, on one trip alone, she carried more than 16,600 troops, a record that stands to this day.
Whenever huge reinforcements are needed, the Queen Mary does the job.
Every other week, the Queen, clad in drab gray war paint, would haul an average of 15,000 American GIs to Europe.
Were they shoulder to shoulder on this ship, basically?
It was very, very cramped. The men ate in 2 shifts down in the Grand Salon. A ham slicing machine worked 24 hours a day trying to keep up with the demand for ham and eggs. Eggs were boiled in 55-gallon drums with steam jetted up from the boiler rooms.
The passage took about 7 days, after which the Queen would head back to New York and do it all again. The Nazis were not amused. Adolf Hitler offered $250,000 to any submarine captain who could sink her, but she outran them all.
Every U-boat commander in the German Navy would like to have sunk the Queen Mary.
Did she ever get fired upon?
She was never fired upon.
American soldiers landed in England.
In the build-up to D-Day, the Mary carried nearly 500,000 GIs to Great Britain, among them Army Private Arnie Boots. Like so many GIs far from home, Boots met an English girl and promptly married her.
I was 16 years old.
16?
16.
And what was it about this guy?
I don't know. There was 2 million GIs stationed at Cheltenham during the war. And, you know, you'd see somebody, but there was just something about Arnie.
June Allen married Arnie Boots shortly before he shipped out for D-Day. She wouldn't see him again. That is, not until after the war ended, and the U.S. Army started shipping around 60,000 British war brides to their new lives in America. June and her young son came to the U.S. aboard the Queen Mary.
I was only 18 years old, and I had never been on a ship. And I had never seen a ship that size in my life. I got out of the bus and I looked up and up. It took my breath away. I couldn't believe the size of it.
We'll meet again.
And instead of the cramped quarters their husbands endured, the war brides who came over on the Mary sailed in high style.
I'm trying to imagine what it was like for you as an 18-year-old woman to be walking this deck.
Well, a little scary, but when you're young, I was so excited about, you know, going to a new country, plus being on the greatest ship in the world. It was so thrilling.
For June, the voyage was an absolute dream. The reunion with her husband, not so much.
I had never seen him out of uniform. And I didn't know him. I thought, is that him? I've been married to the man almost 3 years, and I didn't recognize him. I thought, is that Arnie or isn't it? That's what wartime does.
They settled in Indiana, And as you might guess, life in the U.S. took some adjustment.
He was kind of a stranger to me when I first came over here. I'll be honest about it. We were married 37 years, and like all marriages, it has its ups and downs. We didn't have the happiest marriage in the world. We were kind of opposites in so many ways because we never got the chance to know each other that well.
Her late husband is now just a memory. So too, the golden age of ocean liners.
Roger, United 210 now leaving.
By the 1960s, jet aircraft had all but replaced ships for transatlantic travel. And in 1967, with great reluctance, the Queen Mary was taken on her final voyage by Captain John Treasure Jones.
In the older days, the only way of getting around the world was to go by sea, but now you hop in these damn wind machines and you can go anywhere in no time almost.
The city of Long Beach, California bought the Queen for $3.5 million. And on December 9, 1967, she tied up there for good after having crossed the Atlantic 1,001 times. Today, the Queen is a floating hotel and museum. But for a ship that hasn't been to sea in nearly 50 years, she still has the power to move.
It's like me, it's got old, but the ship is beautiful. I'm getting old, but the ship is still beautiful.
And to others who've sailed on her, or wish they had, the Queen Mary is not so much a ship as a shrine.
The Queen Mary, being like any small town or city, children were born on board and people have passed away, especially during the ravages of the Second World War.
So it truly is hallowed ground.
It's truly hallowed ground, she is.